What's up guys, my name is Archon and Garuda just got a new proto frame Vina. She's absolutely amazing and it led to me fiddling with Garuda for an entire week trying out every single build variation, and I've come to the conclusion of an absolutely amazing build. Infinite damage, infinite energy, you're never dying practically and not even over exaggerating. If you want to see it, then check out this build. Before we get too far into this, let me quickly explain how Garuda works. I'll use the active build we're using and try to explain her abilities with this. I'm trying to put all the infos, facts, neat tips and tricks for Garuda in here. So even if she's your main, there might be things you haven't heard here. Start out with her passive. Pretty simple stuff how a passive works. For every kill and for every assist you get 5% extra damage. Damage goes for abilities and weapons, and you'll see it at the bottom right. So for every kill here I'm getting, even if I go and decide to kill the whole room, nuke the whole room, I'll get up to 100% extra damage. Pretty easy passive. And then to your damage on your weapons, it's going to be additive. Garuda's first is most of her kit, and it's absolutely insane because Dread Mirror does so much. From all the frames I've covered, I haven't seen this extensive ability, so let's try to break it up in parts. Dread Mirror does three things. You leap towards a target, then you put up the actual mirror, which is this oval around you, and then you're charging up a heart, which is the little damage indicator with a beating heart at the top of the mirror. So the first thing with charging towards a target, what you do is you steal about 10% of the target's health, and that's casted as heart. So let's just save that right there. If you execute the target, that means if it has less than 40% health and you insta hit it like I'm doing here, I'm getting 20% of it. So here's the mirror itself. The mirror will, anything that hits me within this range, I will, from damage of the enemies, I'll kind of absorb and it will turn into the heart stack up top. If it runs out, if the mirror goes away, I'll be taking normal damage again. The heart though I can save up if it runs out. I can even charge that by draining energy and then release it. It's not going to be effective waiting for it to run out. What you want to do is you want to leap, and then you want to use a little bit of your energy by re-pressing your first ability and charging that up so you can release the heart while you still have the mirror up. The bonus damage you get from instantly executing a target below 40% health doesn't matter too much because you're getting much more in that of just charging it up. The other bonus fact here is, which is really important, that it scales with enemy health, of course, since you're absorbing some of that, but it also scales with enemy damage based on the levels you're attacking. So that matters a lot, and that's the main reason you can take Garuda to any damage cap, and it can work for any enemies you're facing. Here's some bonus facts with Dread Mirror. Any knockdowns and staggers coming through your mirror won't affect you. It has an explosion, and it ignores damage fall off over range, and it goes through walls, which is really interesting. So it only gets easier from here on out. Her 2 is Blood Altar. What you do is you impale an enemy and you create a Blood Altar, and then around that target, you and your allies will get healing per second. Also scales with strength. Here, what you're doing, it's kind of like, if you guys know Nidus, it's like Parasitic Link. The target becomes invulnerable and you have a little bit of extra health aura. So this is at the same time as the Helmet ability, but also the Subsume ability. So that means if you're putting a new ability on here, you'll be taking this off. This is Garuda's weakest ability. And if you subsume a normal Garuda, you will get this ability in your helmet. See, I place this down here. Enemies kind of gets pushed back, kind of out the circle every time I put this up. The target will lose the invulnerability anytime it runs out, so ability duration runs out. And then if I repress my ability, kind of like with Nidus, I'll just let go of the Blood Altar and it will disappear. Nothing super special. Let's hop into her 3. Garuda's 3 Bloodletting is another meat and potatoes ability, and if this was in the helmet, it would absolutely break the game. How this works is you're sacrificing your health for energy. That's what it says on here. I'll quickly get into how it works. This of course also scales with Nourish. That's why in showcasing I'll use Nourish. Simple breakdown of what Nourish does. It's Grendel Subsume. And what you do here is any energy source or any energy incomes gets multiplied by your strength. So that means if I have higher strength, I'll get a little bit more energy from energy sources. If I have Nourish active, just as the simple breakdown. My health pool. You're always having your health pool, you're not having your existing health, it's always the max pool. You cannot kill yourself with ability, this goes down to a minimum of 2, and with me having Mold Reconstruct on here, every time I cast something and I expend energy, I get health back. So that's gonna be our main way to get health back. There's other ways. We could be using Blood Altar itself, we could be using Gloom, but Mold Reconstruct is just the easiest way ever. So Garuda's 4 is not her main damage ability. How this works is that you charge it up and it amplifies targets. So you already see here it has a chance to inflict hard/status chances. So you're hitting them, even scales with ability strength. So I went from 70 to 97 with high ability strength. And let's see how this works in practice. So what we're doing here is we're charging it up and we're just releasing it on targets. It seeks the targets and we're just casting it on range. This is line of sight, which kind of sucks a little bit with this. And then it doesn't matter how long you hold it, because at about 1 second it's already maxed out. You can hold it for longer, but that's about when you put out the proc. Always recommend using this ability with Blending Talents. What it does, it will perform an AoE here around Garuda, and you have an additional combo count on the bleeding when hitting the bleeding status. So what you're doing here, you see me here, I'm instantly just putting these out. I don't have any charge up time. I can still charge them up here, but it's just way easier to cast, and it synergizes amazingly with my 1. You see all targets marked. I'm charging up my 1 to maximum here, and then I can release insane damage on proc targets. So when I have my 4 on targets, you'll see here, I'm just getting some energy here, and you'll see I proc this on targets. I won't have like the slash on top of targets' heads. I'm just gonna be guaranteed that if I have a slash weapon to inflict slash status on them. Here we come to a little bit more disappointing augments. We have Blood Forge for her 3. So what we do, we'll just refill our magazine with every cast. So we're just reloading it. And for Incarnants, that won't work. It won't give us any magical extra ammo. If we're out, we're out. We also have Dread Mirror for our 1, and we'll become invulnerable for 8 seconds after our Dread Mirror kills, if we kill him by ripping. So what we can do is we can rip a target, but the problem with this is, and you're seeing this in the gameplay, it's pretty likely to die here if we're trying to recast it, and then since it doesn't do tons of initial damage, we have to cast like 50 times on a target to get the kill. So we have a few targets that are weak here. We just killed one, and it shows up weird. You'll see here the Blood Altar, or the augment, counting down in top right. If it runs out, we die, but it doesn't tell us we're invulnerable or anything. It just shows up on here, and you sometimes don't even know, am I protected, am I not, do I have to look through my running buffs? So let's get right into the build, but do please help me with my fashion framing, because I don't know what I did to Vina here. It's absolutely terrible. Please send help. So if we look into Garuda's build, here is how it goes. I've tried, like I said at the beginning of the video, I've tried out everything. And this is the optimal conclusion I've come to. So let's look at augments first. I'm running Mold Reconstruct. Already told you in the explanation why this is important, but this will help us re-heal ourselves every time we're casting our 3. And then I'm running Mold Augmented. I've tried out a bunch of different things here, and I've tried the common mod, Arcane Arachne. We're getting 150% buff on damage every time we have our wall latch active, but for me personally, I forget doing it, and I'm not a big fan of having to pay attention to latch onto it. My big problem with Arcane Arachne is that it doesn't work like the invisibility of Octavia, where you can just recast it. I have to wait for it to run out, and then I can re-wall latch. And I'm just not doing all of this. Mold Augmented works way better. For the build itself, there's a few essentials. The essentials on here is Blind Rage, because we don't need it, but it helps having negative efficiency, because efficiency does not matter and we can use all the strength. It's Blending Talents, it's Stretch, and it's Prime Flow and Prime Continuity. With the others, you can do a little bit what you want, but I do recommend doing this. I recommend going Cunning Drift over Power Drift, and I recommend doing extra strength through Transient Fortitude and Umbral Intensify. And with Overextended, we can get that extra range. I've tried playing her on Reach here, on going Reach instead of Overextended, but I've just seen this little bit of extra strength. It doesn't help us as much as the 60% extra range, which is insane on her 4. Because here, we'd have a 17 meter radius of her 4 and a, where do we have it? A 19 meter radius on her 1. With Overextended, it's 22 on the 4, and it's insane 25 on the 1, which is insane for nuking. Like, we can even go up to, on the life force on pouncing on a target, to 75 meters. I'm going with Corrosive Projection. I've seen Growing Power. I do like the extra armor strip here, because she doesn't have a direct armor strip in her kit. She has an amplifier through a 4, but I think Corrosive Projection is really nice here. You kind of need Prime Flow. I've tried a lot of different things, but if you don't want to run a bunch of Tauforge Blue Shards, Prime Flow makes a lot of sense here, and you kind of do need that if you're charging up. She already benefits from a unique buff of having a bigger than normal energy pool when putting on Prime Flow. Most Warframes, most Primes, they cap out at about 700 here. She has a bonus of, I think it's a 1.5 multiplier on energy through any Prime Flow or Flow mod, which is really, really nice here. The 900 energy helps a ton. This is about the build. Quick info, guys. If you do appreciate these builds, do make sure to subscribe, because there's a chance with the algorithm that it will never show you these kinds of vids again, just from this channel. So if you want to stay in the loop, hit the subscribe. So for the rest of her, a little interesting feature some of you might not know, you can actually mod out Garuda Prime's talent and use it as a melee. If you take off your melee, you can start modding this out. I don't have anything for the talents because I barely use them. I barely use my Zaw that I have modded out to the absolute brink. This isn't perfect, this is just what I use. And then we have the Epitaph is the most used for her. You can also use a nuke core. This will be my Epitaph build. This is the revenue I have on it. Nothing special, nothing crazy. You kind of just want to mod that for, I like modding it for coal and magnetic, just getting that out. Then my Felrax. Also nothing special on the Riven here. Just an example build. I like something hard hitting here, but Garuda does the job on everything. You barely have to use your weapons. For the pet, I'm using the Smeeder because I love the charm buff. But also pet doesn't matter too much. You can also run whatever you want. I just usually go with the Smeeder here. For Focus School, since we're covering all bases, we don't need Narman, we don't need Cineric, we have all the energy, we can go Madurai. I always love being able to go with Madurai just because of the extra damage, and I do like the bow from Tauron Strike, but also not a requirement. If you have roughly this build, you're achieving anything and you don't need extra help from weapons or your Focus School or your pet. You can do it all. Feel free to use whatever you want. For Archon Shards, let's quickly hop over here. Where is it? There we go. For Archon Shards, here's where it gets interesting. I do recommend 3 Tauforge casting speed shards. I usually never recommend this many. You could even do 4, but it does make a huge difference. She has all the damage. That's why we don't need a ton of red shards. If you're doing anything else except for casting speed, it is red shards. But I recommend doing 3 at least. You can even do 4 of them. Don't go anything extra. Don't do any extra energy max or health regeneration. You could do health regeneration if you don't have mold reconstruct, but it's pretty easy to farm, and I've tried it out using it on tier 1, 2, and 3, and it still does a pretty good basic job. Here's the part where I explain how to actually play her. First thing we want to do is cast Nourish. Then we'll cast our 3 a few times, we can cast Nourish again, just to fill up our health. Keep in mind, every time we cast an ability that's not our 3, we will get health. We will max out our health. Anytime we cast our 4 or hold our 4 for a brief second, we're invulnerable. So if you're ever worried you have 0 health, like you have no shield and no health, just quickly cast 4. Then we want to we want to hit our 1 on a target for every damage encounter. So for every time of room nuking, we want to cast our 1, hold that for a second, then cast our 4. So that means we cast our 1 on our target. We will put up our Dread Mirror. So you'll see it here in a second. Put out a Dread Mirror. Hold the 1 for a second, and then we nuke. In the middle of that, we can cast our 4, or just on a group of enemy can cast our 4, use our weapons, do whatever. Technically, depends on enemy level, depends on enemy strength. You can just cast your 1, hold that for a second, nuke the room. You wouldn't need anything else in the kit. To just prime targets here, I'll use the 4 every once in a while, and then I'll hold my 1 to kill everything else. What you can also do is just slip the 4 in between here. You cast the 1, you cast the 4, you recast your 1, and then with your 2 and 3, you're just keeping Nourish up the whole time, also for the viral proc. And then once your 3, every time you run out of energy, you just reload that when casting your 3, and then any additional ability casted, like I just said, gives you health. So it's pretty chill. For me, an extremely important aspect is how Garuda or any frame performs in a team setting. So I'm playing with a Nuke Nova here, and we're just trying to figure out how does Garuda work in team, because there are frames and builds where we have an amazing build or amazing concept, and it's just kind of terrible playing that with other people, and that kind of defeats the purpose within Warframe. And I think a lot of other people don't really think about this or reference this when it comes to builds. So with Garuda, it's pretty cool that the main thing we have to do is we have to find a target for our 1. That already puts up Dread Mirror, and then anywhere I can just take that and cast that. And I have, with the heart, I have infinite time. I have about 24 seconds on my current duration with having the Dread Mirror up. And what I do is I cast my 1 on somebody, and then I cast my 4 a few times in the room, and then I just go looking for a group of enemies. And Garuda isn't totally overpowering that it nukes everything and leaves no kills for your teammates. And it really has a good range, but it does maximum damage. Even if you encounter acolytes or a Legicite or anything, you're really nuking it completely on your first hit, and it's kind of nice just for that team damage. Also, with always having Mold Reconstruct up, you're actually healing your teammates, so you're actually kind of a bit of a support frame, and I like all frames having it. I really have to say I've been loving the proto frames. Warframe has been cooking with this concept. She here, Garuda, has an amazing animation over Tavina and the other way around. Looks really cool. I definitely recommend getting them. That's what I'm spending my plat that I farm on. And then from her overall character design, it synergizes well together. It's really interesting how they did that. It feels like you have 2 nukes on the 1 and 4, but it synergizes into 1, which is really nice. Even the Blood Altar, which is usually not used a lot because that's used as a subsume, is pretty fun. Like, you could play her with just the Blood Altar. Makes everything a little bit more difficult, but it would work just as a stylistic choice. She's a ton of fun and really satisfying to play. That's mainly what I'm looking for, and she's really moved up on my own tier list for all Warframes. When it comes to her kit itself, there's a few things I don't like a ton. The main problem is with the 1. I feel like the range is really narrow. Like, you have to have your kind of crosshair in the middle of the screen, like on a target, to even get the 1 out. Because just to find an enemy to pounce on, it's kind of easy, but you have to really target it a little bit, like with, if anybody of you gets this reference with Necros or Soul Punch, it's difficult from the range. Like, that could be extended, and her 1, the mechanics when you're floating around and casting it and putting up your Dread Heart could be a little bit easier. I do love the direction we're going in with powerful builds and really fun and unique stuff. It's not because we're room nuking, we're still room nuking, but we're room nuking in different ways, and they all have their own merits and their own special things. At the end of the day, we all want to kill everything as fast as possible, and any means necessary. For her here, it's again a nourish build. That's kind of like the best way you can figure this out here, or you do this here. Nourish is just really strong. I really wish, because you know some of you might already know my opinions on the helmet. I wish we had like 10 to 15 main abilities that were really good that we put on stuff, and not just nourish and roar and everything. But this was an insanely fun build to make. Do make sure to check out the other 2 videos here. I made an amazing one on the new Stynax Prime. Go check that out as well. And maybe even the new Nidus rework. As always guys, all of you that watched to this point are absolute legends. I had a ton of fun making this video, I can just say it again. And thanks a lot guys. See ya.